When you think of Korea, what captivates you the most? Is it the heart-wrenching dramas that leave us in tears over complicated love stories? The dazzling world of K-pop, where idols not only sing and dance perfectly, but also look like they've stepped out of a sculpture? Or is it the irresistible aroma of grilled meat and the fiery spiciness of tteokbokki that gets anyone hooked from the very first bite? It's undeniable. From music, movies, and fashion to cuisine, everything about Korea carries a strange and powerful charm. So much so that, sometimes unconsciously, we forget it's an actual country and instead see Korea as a cultural phenomenon. A sweeping wave that has taken the world by storm and touched the hearts of millions. But is everything always as dazzling as it seems? Can that culture continue to shine forever? Or is it slowly revealing the hidden shadows beneath its surface? Behind that flawless appearance, could Korea itself be struggling, grappling with the darker sides that have long remained unseen? Step into a Korean bar where the music pounds relentlessly. The air is thick with the scent of alcohol, and every faint sound from the outside world is swallowed whole. Here, the real game begins, with big shot men calling the shots. And the only rule is, there are no rules at all. The Korean cultural wave or Hallyu fever has gone far beyond entertainment, opening up a vast, promising market for a wide range of Korean products. Seizing the opportunity, many Korean entrepreneurs quickly stepped in and invested. Year after year, more and more Korean brands have continued to spring up across the Vietnamese market. Beyond household names like Samsung and LG, longtime giants in the electronics sector, the Korean wave has swept through cosmetics too, with brands like Innisfree and Laneige winning the hearts of many Vietnamese consumers. And then there's Lotte. Whether it's supermarkets, cinemas, or snacks, it has gradually become a familiar part of daily life in Vietnam. It's spread across the entire consumer market. The love for Korea has grown so strong that it's created massive demand for products from the land of morning calm. And of course, Korean entrepreneurs haven't missed that opportunity. As a result, every year, more and more Korean brands enter the Vietnamese market, and many of them thrive. Familiar names like Samsung, LG have long dominated the electronic sector. In cosmetics, brands like Innisfree and Laneige are consistently among the most popular. Then there's Lotte, ranging from supermarkets and restaurants to snacks, gradually becoming a top and familiar choice for many Vietnamese consumers. And riding that very same wave at the end of 2024, a Seoul-inspired bar called The Rabbit officially made its debut on Tran Hung Dao Street, District 1. From the moment it opened, it set Saigon's youth buzzing with excitement. The space is meticulously designed, dim neon lights, a modern vibe mixed with subtle touches of Korean tradition, creating a stunning atmosphere. The moment you step inside, with lively K-pop music playing and the sound of bartenders shaking up cocktails, it feels just like standing in the middle of Gangnam. But the Rabbit doesn't just impress with its look and sound. It truly scores with a uniquely crafted drink menu. From creative soju cocktails to modern takes on traditional makgeolli, every drink is made by Korean bartenders who were professionally trained in Seoul. The owner, Kim D, born in 1994, has invested thoughtfully and clearly brings his own distinct taste and vision to the place. So it's no surprise that the Rabbit quickly became a hot hangout spot for Saigon's youth. What's more surprising is that it's also attracted many young Koreans living and working in Ho Chi Minh City. For Vietnamese patrons, it's a place to experience Korean culture in an authentic way. For Koreans, the Rabbit feels like a little slice of home, a cozy corner that eases their homesickness. Gradually, international visitors have also started flocking in greater numbers. 2 a.m., December 28th. Even in the middle of the night, the Rabbit was still bustling with guests, especially Korean customers. That scene alone says a lot about how strong the bar's appeal is. In the security camera footage from that time, a group of 3 Korean men is seen walking in. They looked sharp, chatting and laughing, just like any other guests. It didn't take them long to choose a VIP room, a more secluded and private space. One of them ordered 2 bottles of Royal Salute, a premium whiskey that costs anywhere from 5 to 7 million VND per bottle. But in a place like the Rabbit, where guests often come to show off their status, that wasn't anything out of the ordinary. The red and blue lights kept flashing nonstop, and the music was blasting at full volume. The 3 guests poured whiskey into sparkling crystal glasses, sipping and chatting cheerfully. Everything seemed perfectly normal. No one in the bar sensed anything unusual. Drinks were still being served. The other rooms were running as usual. And no one could have guessed that, right in the middle of all that noise and energy, where nothing seemed out of place, something terrible was quietly unfolding. Around 2:35 a.m., from outside the VIP room, one of the 3 men suddenly raised his voice in Korean, saying something along the lines of, "My friend will come to pay." At first glance, the statement didn't seem unusual. In an all-night bar, it's not uncommon for guests to delay payment. The staff continued with their work as usual. No one paid much attention, but then, at 3:10 a.m., while many other guests were still lost in the music, and staff were still carrying drinks as usual, the police suddenly stormed into the VIP room. Everyone was stunned into silence. The door flew open. Inside the room, shattered glass covered the floor. Liquor spilled in messy patches. Several people were lying scattered around, each in a different position, and right in the middle of the room, in a scene no one ever wants to witness. The bar owner, Kim D, lay motionless. He was no longer alive. Right after the incident, the city's investigation team quickly arrived at the scene. Inside the VIP room, it looked as if a storm had just passed through. Beer bottles were scattered across the floor. Shards of broken glass were everywhere, and the tables and chairs had been overturned. Nothing was left intact. In the corner of the room, the officers discovered a new model Samsung Galaxy phone with a shattered screen. What was strange was that the metal frame had several red stains that looked like blood. When one of the officers carefully powered it on, a series of messages appeared, all in Korean. Those seemingly random lines of text would later become crucial clues, leading investigators to uncover a truth no one could have imagined. Recognizing this as a serious criminal case, an emergency meeting was called in the middle of the night. A special task force was immediately formed, bringing together the most elite investigative units to take on the case. Outside the VIP room, the police began taking statements from the staff. Those who were present at the time recalled that, at first, the 3 Korean guests seemed completely normal, polite and cheerful. But not long after, once the alcohol started to take effect, they began to show signs of losing control. Several female staff members reported that the group started behaving inappropriately, with unwelcome touching and suggestive actions. A male staff member, seeing what was happening, stepped in to intervene. Unexpectedly, that action triggered the guests' anger, and they became extremely aggressive. The sounds of shouting and things breaking echoed loudly, overpowering even the blaring music, turning what had been a lively atmosphere into complete chaos. The bar owner, Kim D, along with the manager, had to personally step into the room to calm things down and try to defuse the situation. But sadly, instead of cooperation, they were met with violence. When the staff asked the guests to settle the bill and leave, one of them responded coldly, "We don't have money, my friend will come to pay." At that moment, no one could have imagined that what seemed like a simple sentence would turn out to be the key to the tragedy that followed. Exactly 20 minutes later, 2 other Korean men arrived. Their names were Kang Yo-han, born in 1996, and Kim Jin, born in 1995. Some witnesses later recalled that the moment Kim Jin and Kang Yo-han arrived at the bar, a police officer happened to be patrolling nearby. And yet, in a shocking display of boldness, one of the 2 suddenly lunged forward, snatched the baton from the officer's hand, and ran straight into the VIP room like a predator closing in on its prey. Everything happened so fast. No one had time to react. They locked the door behind them, then ordered 2 of the 3 Korean men who had arrived earlier to stand guard outside, blocking anyone from entering. The remaining man, clearly identified as Shin Woo-young, born in 1995, quickly stepped over to the light switch and turned off all the lights in the room. When asked if anyone had actually witnessed what happened inside that room, one staff member said he had accidentally been trapped inside. Because of that, he saw everything. According to this witness, Kang Yohan repeatedly struck the bar owner, Kim D, with the baton, causing him to collapse on the spot. The blows were so forceful that they caused severe head trauma, injuries beyond saving. Meanwhile, the other man, Kim Jin, targeted the bar manager and attacked him with a shard of broken glass. As a result, the manager was seriously injured and lost his ability to see. Despite being assaulted, the manager tried to fight back, using a liquor bottle to strike in return. It was likely because of this that Kim Jin was also found with multiple injuries when arrested. Outside the VIP room, staff members working nearby heard the sounds of the scuffle, glass shattering, things being smashed, and immediately called the police for help. But by the time authorities arrived, it was already too late. Kim D, the bar owner, could not be saved. After receiving first aid and regaining some composure, the bar manager began recounting everything that had happened. At the same time, the police started verifying the identity of the deceased, Kim D, to determine whether this was a case of personal revenge. According to the manager, he and Kim D were from the same hometown. They had both come from South Korea to Vietnam with the dream of starting a business, especially in the context of the Korean cultural wave being incredibly popular there. In Seoul, opportunities for entrepreneurship were hard to come by, but in Vietnam, they believed they had a better chance to start over. Kim D used to be a bartender for 6 years. He saved every bit of his modest salary to prepare for his big dream, opening a Korean-style bar. Eventually, with financial help borrowed from his family, he was able to open the Rabbit, the passion project he had cherished for so long. And yet, just 2 months after opening, everything fell apart. 3 South Korean men, complete strangers, with no prior connection, suddenly showed up and destroyed it all. They didn't just shatter the dream of a young entrepreneur, they also took his life. According to statements from the staff and the bar manager, there had been no prior relationship between the bar owner, Kim D, and the group of South Korean men involved in the incident. However, the deeper the police investigated, the more they sensed that things weren't quite so simple. It seemed that behind this case lay deeper, more complex tensions, hidden so well that those involved either refused to speak or simply couldn't. That very fact made the case all the more complex and in need of being fully uncovered, down to the very last detail. First, there was one detail that raised serious questions for the authorities: the location of the Rabbit Bar, just a few steps away from the local police station. And yet, an altercation lasting nearly 30 minutes, with shouting, crashing furniture, and lights being switched on and off repeatedly, happened without a single emergency call from the bar staff. By the time the police arrived, it was already too late. That confusion only deepened when the police discovered a string of text messages sent to Kim D shortly before the incident, specifically around 2:35 a.m. that morning. The message was sent by an officer on duty at the District 1 police station, and it read, "Don't cause trouble. If anything happens, just call us." That suggests Kim D had been warned in advance, or at the very least, someone feared that something might happen that night. But the most surprising part is that, despite receiving the message, Kim D never called for help. Instead, he chose to walk straight into the VIP room, the very place where everything was on the verge of erupting, and that may have been the most fatal decision of his life. So why did Kim D choose to act that way? Was it just thoughtlessness or impulsiveness? Those familiar with Korean culture believe Kim D's reaction wasn't random. It might have stemmed from a very important principle in Korean culture: Min, also known as saving face. Unlike the concept of face in Vietnamese culture, Min is not just a personal matter, it's a collective responsibility within the Korean communities living and working abroad, especially among business circles. Calling the police to intervene in conflicts, especially involving fellow Koreans, is often seen as a loss of face. It's not only the individual's reputation at stake, but the entire Korean community in that locality is considered to be dishonored. Because of this so-called collective face, many Korean entrepreneurs, even when facing trouble, always choose to handle things on their own. They see it as a duty to protect the honor of their community. And perhaps Kim D was no exception to that mindset. Even knowing the danger, even with police support, he still walked into the room, carrying the weight of cultural pressure and honor on his shoulders. And then, that choice, sadly, brought an end to the entrepreneurial dream he had pursued his whole youth for. But the truth is always more complicated than we think. A police officer, after reviewing the series of photos sent by the staff member who had accidentally been trapped inside the VIP room, could only sigh, those photos, instead of confirming the statements from the manager and staff that they had been overwhelmed by the guests, revealed a completely opposite reality. Before things got out of control, Kim D and the manager were not overwhelmed. On the contrary, they were the ones in control, quickly restraining the group of guests from the very first minutes. In the photos, you can clearly see how they asserted their authority, forcing the Korean group to obey orders, at one point even making the guests lie down on the floor to maintain order. This way of handling things to outsiders might seem brave and calm, but to those in the industry or underworld, it's a very familiar approach, a kind of prideful street style behavior meant to protect one's reputation in the nightlife scene. To be frank, the Rabbit was not just a bar. It was a link in a complex nightlife business ecosystem, where the line between premium service and shady dealings is very thin. And in that world, calling the police is not the first choice. They have their own ways of handling things, internally, within the community, or through unwritten rules. And perhaps that very way of handling things was the fateful turning point. Kim D's pride, while effective for a few minutes, very likely struck a nerve in those he was confronting. In the world of people who don't respect the law, losing face means losing everything, and the only way to get it back is revenge at any cost. So when one of them loudly said, "My friend will come to pay," what they probably really meant to pay back wasn't the bill, but the humiliation they had just endured. Not long after, two others showed up. No one carried a wallet, but one of them carried the baton stolen from the police. That night, amid the flashing neon lights and pulsing music, a tragedy unfolded. An entrepreneurial dream was forever shattered, and the light of the Rabbit went out as well. On the first day of the new year, January 1st, 2025, Kim D was brought back to Seoul. A sad ending for someone who had brought all his faith, money, and dreams to Vietnam, hoping to start a business on new ground. The Korean community in Vietnam is mostly made up of good citizens and investors who contribute significantly to the country's development. But it must be frankly acknowledged that recently, a few small groups have appeared, living by their own rules, disregarding regulations, and showing contempt for Vietnamese law. The question is, how can we maintain a friendly and cooperative relationship with the vast majority of South Koreans living and working responsibly here, while still strictly dealing with those who disregard the law and disrupt social order? This is not a one-sided issue. It requires cooperation from both sides. And what about you? If you've ever had any experiences with the Korean community in Vietnam, do you have a story you'd like to share? Feel free to leave a comment below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any upcoming stories. Thank you for watching until the very end. Goodbye, and have a peaceful evening.